talking about being a female. So as I bring students onto RAF bases, some of the trade ambassadors, the young females, are there, and they don't see themselves as any different. We've come so far in that respect. They are literally just one part of the team.
My most challenging moment was when I went to Norway to do Arctic survival training, like cold weather survival training, and there was only three women there at the time, and we had to, do everything. It was really arduous. Do everything with the guys. That included going to the toilet outside. So some of we struggled with. The girls were like, I don't know if I can do this. We're all really young, in the middle of nowhere, we're mixed amongst the Marines, the RAF, everybody. That I found really quite challenging initially, is to just be like, you have no choice, But again, it was great, because even though I found it challenging, the guys was like, let's help the girls out and give them more space, because the guys don't really care about it. So let's give them more space. Let's make them a little tent or something, So yeah, that was probably it for me.
Welcome to Find Your Force, the Career Potential podcast. Everyone has a talent they were born to do, and we're here to help you find yours for your career. Whether you're taking the first step or the next step in your career, our advice and stories are here to help. Hi, I'm Hope, your host for Season 2 of Find Your Force, and I'm delighted to be joined by Emma and Charlie to discuss being a woman in the forces. So welcome, Charlie and Emma, to this episode where we're talking about being a woman in the forces. To start off, can we hear a little bit about your roles? We'll start with you, Charlie.
Hi, yes. So I'm currently at AFCO Liverpool, where I work in recruitment. So I'm the office manager. It's now North West Hub. We've just combined, but I work helping recruit people to come and join the RAF at the minute.
Okay, Emma?
Yeah, so my current role is Careers Liaison Officer. And I bring students and candidates onto RAF bases, such as RAF Wittering, to see and live the RAF experience. My main trade, though, is avionics engineer.
Brilliant. I want to hear about the way that you got into the Royal Air Force to begin today. So, again to you, Emma, tell us about your kind of journey starting with the Royal Air Force.
Well, it started with my brothers, actually. So both of them decided they wanted to join the Royal Air Force. One as an MT driver and one as ground radar. And I saw them leaving home, leaving the little village that I lived in. And I thought, yes, I could do with a piece of that. So when they came home in uniform, telling me all about the RAF, and that's when I said, right, okay, that's my turn.
And how did your parents respond to that? Because obviously, are they older brothers?
Yes, yeah, 2 older brothers.
So I assume that maybe back then it was like, oh, that's something that men can go and do. But as a woman, was it the same thing?
If you'd met my mother, then it was a case of females can do anything. As long as you work hard, get your exams, then you can go for it. Mum was disabled, but she fought all her life just to be accepted, just to get on with it. So that was my mentality. Yeah, why couldn't I?
It's a good mentality to have.
Yes, yeah.
And Charlie, what about you?
My story is a little bit different. I was 16 when I first went to join the RAF, and the reason I actually went to join is because I'd had a falling out with my parents over college, and maybe I wasn't working hard enough and applying myself. So I thought, you know what, that's it, I'm leaving home. But I didn't know how I was going to leave home. So I'd spoken to some friends at college, and like, oh, I'm joining the RAF, and I was like, oh, RAF, okay. I thought, well, what's that? I wonder can I join up? And they're like, well, yeah. So I went over to the careers office and sat a test, and it was like, well, yeah, you've passed, you can join up. And then that was kind of it. I was like, oh, Mum, Dad, I'm joining the RAF. And they're like, oh, yeah, no, you're not. And then here I am. So, yeah.
So was that their response then, just didn't believe you?
Initially, yeah. Initially, they were kind of like, oh, she's just saying that because she's in trouble. But then I was like, no, I really am joining the RAF. And then, yeah, that was it.
And you've got quite a lot of siblings, haven't you? How did they respond?
They were happy. They were impressed. They were sad that I was going to be leaving home, but they were really happy. Yeah, big sister's gone off to join the RAF and travel the world and whatnot. So they're really happy. Yeah.
And you're the eldest out of 9.
I am. Yes.
That's a big family.
It's a lot of us.
If they didn't agree with you,
I wouldn't have been going anywhere. Yeah.
And now you're the only one who's in the forces.
Yes. Yeah. The only one in my family who's in the forces. I think I was the first one to go and do this. Like it wasn't known within my family that anyone joined the military. So I didn't really have anybody to talk to about it and say, oh, I wonder what the military's like. So I went in completely blind. So I just thought it was a job, I'll just go and work in an office in the RAF. So yeah.
Were you a bit of a rebel?
Maybe a little bit, yeah.
So you saw it as kind of a different course to take?
Yeah, absolutely. I think college wasn't for me. Basically, it wasn't for me. I didn't really enjoy studying as such. So when that came up and it was just a chance to go and start a job and try something new with a chance to travel, I was like, do you know what? I've got nothing to lose.
Emma, we spoke there about expectations. Charlie said she went in blind, thought she'd be working in an office, didn't really know what to expect. What did you expect? Obviously, you had your brothers, so you may have known more.
They did warn me that I would be in the minority at that time. They did say that there was limited females at that time in certain trades, and that going in as an aircraft engineer, I think there was 4 of us going through training with 1,000 guys.
Wow.
So we were definitely the minority, but it was absolutely okay because we sort of became a team member, and the guys on our course, they just looked after us. And they said, right, you're one of us, and if we had any issues whatsoever, which were few, they had our backs the whole time. And in fact, we still keep in contact and meeting up in a couple of months, and that's 37 years later.
Wow, that's lovely.
So it just became part of a team, so it wasn't an issue.
Were there any pleasant surprises when you joined?
Sport. So I really wasn't a sport person. In fact, I was the anchor person on a tug-of-war team. But that was about it. But to actually have a go at different sports, I thoroughly enjoyed that, and the travel. I didn't realise there was going to be that much. They were good surprises.
And Charlie, quite a few surprises for you, seeing as you came in blind. Tell me about some good ones.
For me, I'd never been on an aeroplane until I joined the RAF.
Wow.
So I joined the RAF, and then I got to go on, a F3, which wasn't my best experience, but so many different aircraft, and all this flying that I'd never done before. So that was a really pleasant experience for me. It was the FD. It was the opportunity to go out and go, guess what? We're going to go kayaking today. Kayaking? Mining, rock climbing, all these great. So for me, it opened my eyes to a lot more. It was good.
So how important are role models when choosing what to do when you're a youngster? You mentioned your brothers. You didn't really have any role models in your family who were in the military. So do you think it's important for other people to see women in these places, in these spaces? Start with you, Emma.
Yes, because when I went through, when I joined the Air Force, there were no females ahead of me. We were one of the first few engineers to go through, so there was nobody to aspire to be. I had some brilliant chief technicians, male, who were my inspirations, and who said, you just got to keep knuckle down, hard work, and you can achieve anything. And I think now, especially in my role, I've been in for quite some time, there's a lot of younger females come to me and say, we've seen you, we've seen what you do, so you're our inspiration, which feels a little weird, and a bit of responsibility. But I think it's very important now to say, okay, so for example, when I was in the careers office in Peterborough, a young girl came in, was going into HR, so that was fine, but she had so many technical background exams and qualifications, and she said, I didn't think there were any female engineers in the Royal Air Force. And I said, well, you're looking at one. And now she came in an engineer. So at that point, there wasn't that role, there isn't the role models for some people, but hopefully there is now.
Do you like being a role model?
Not particularly.
Why not?
It's weird, because I think with that it comes responsibility. But if I can show that it can be achieved, then yes, I like it, if you're asking that sort of question. And I think once you get into the mindset that you are a role model, then you think a bit more about actually going out and telling people, going out and showing people. I think it's because you think, I'm nothing special, so how can I be a role model? But when people tell you and people ask you to do things like this, you think, oh, maybe I've done something then.
Yeah, and putting modesty to the side.
Yes, yeah.
Anything to add, Charlie, about role models?
No, really, that's just pretty much the same as Emma, really. It's nice to, especially like my background and, where I grew up, where there wasn't a lot of people in the military or anything like that, to go home and for people to see me in the military, having done, a couple of decades now, and thinking, gosh, I didn't ever think I'd be able to do that. Well, of course you can, come on in, You've got to try it, it's open to everybody. So, if you want to try and get away from all you've known and get out of where you've grown up and travel a little bit, it's worth a shot. Yeah.
What can women bring to a team that's majority males? You spoke earlier about the training, it was just 4 of you women with thousands of men. What did you bring that the men didn't have so much of?
Patience. And that doesn't go for all females, by the way, or all males. So patience and a bit of diligence to get the job done. Various attributes, physical attributes that a female have. For example, when I worked on certain aircraft, the size of my hands, I could get into spaces where maybe a colleague couldn't. So you worked as a team. So I would do maybe the fiddly bits, etc., and intricate bits, and the guys we'd work as a team to remove the pieces of equipment from the aircraft. It's bringing teamwork in, and you're saying about modesty and things like that, and leaving your ego at the door and just getting on with it together.
So Charlie, Emma just made some really good points there about kind of attributes that women can bring to a team. Is there anything that you would like to add that she hasn't said?
Yeah, I think women can bring, and men can as well, but women tend to bring empathy. So I am often approached by some of the males saying, can I talk to you about something that they might not approach the other guys about? Emotional intelligence as well. Again, I'm not just saying that's just down to women and we only have it, but I think a lot of the times women are more open with how they feel and, what they want to say. Yeah.
And that might come down to how we're nurtured.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. We're... It's not so much anymore, but, back in the day, for a lot of us who were maybe a little bit older, it was kind of like, boys, don't you do that, get on with it, dust yourself off, you'll be fine. Whereas now it's like, are you sure you're okay? Very more in tune with how that men are as well, and men need that. So it's good. It's open.
Do you feel you're part of an exclusive club being in the forces, or is it more accessible than people are led to believe? Emma?
Yes, it's definitely more accessible. Once you're in the club, it is a special club, and we look after each other. But I think people have this image that it's this male-dominated. You have to be strong physically. You have to be direct. But actually, once if you've got the qualifications, or indeed some of our trades, you don't even need any qualification to join. It's the determination to join that club. And once you're in, that's when it becomes special.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, I agree with everything that Emma just said. You've just got to have the drive and the ambition to want to do it. And it's pretty easy once you get in to want to do it, when you see what's available, the lifestyle. You're like, what? Actually, I didn't know this was for me. I'm gonna go for it. Yeah.
Do you find there's an element of competitiveness, but in a positive way, because you're driven when you join, and then you're surrounded by like-minded people who are also driven? Does it kind of elevate and push you to work even harder?
Yeah, I think it does. I don't know about you, but I think absolutely it does. When you're a part of a team, you don't want to let anybody down. So you always want to, make sure you try and do your best, and you come together and you get positive, and sometimes constructive criticism from your colleagues, that everybody wants to develop each other and try and improve. So the competitiveness comes in, but it's also we all use it as like a learning tool as well. So it does get competitive.
Emma?
Yeah, as an aircraft engineer, you have to have high standards. So that brings in a bit of competitiveness to make sure that you maintain those standards for a start. And then when you transfer into your social life, which is all part of the Royal Air Force as well, that's when the competitiveness, what strange challenges you're going to come up with to challenge each other. There is a degree of competitiveness with that side of it as well.
Society can sometimes make women quieter or can stop us from saying things that we think or feel. Do you ever find that in your roles, if you notice a mistake that a male counterpart has made, that you've ever stopped yourself from saying something, or do you feel like you can say whatever you need to say? If there's a mistake, you can call someone out. Charlie?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we're all taught that in our different roles and in our jobs, that calling that out, no one gets in trouble or punished for a genuinely honest error, because we all do it. Human error is a part of life, isn't it? But you have to be careful, because that little error you've made could impact someone further down the line. It could end up being really a critical mistake. So we it goes as a lesson identified. Oh, look, we did this. We can't let that happen, because the consequences of that happening could be terrible.
And if there was a situation where maybe you called someone out and they retaliated in a bad way, maybe said, "Oh, you don't know what you're talking about because you're a woman," something like that. I'm not saying that would happen, but would there be support and someone to go to in that scenario? Emma?
Yes, there's actual ways of making complaint, because if you have been either spoken to incorrectly, or you've been given short change and not been acknowledged for what you have said, there's ways and methods to make that complaint. Or even if it doesn't have to be a complaint, even if you just want yourself heard, that's another change that's happened in the Air Force, Royal Air Force, that there's avenues you can take now, and you will be listened to and supported.
Did you know that the RAF is the first service to open all its roles to women and has the highest percentage of women compared to the other British Armed Forces? Everyone works hard to make sure the RAF is a place where everyone is treated equally. You can realise your career potential, whoever you are. What does the RAF put into place to ensure equality for all? Charlie?
Well, it's driven into us. Driven in, is that right?
Yeah,
right term?
yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's driven into us about equality. There's no different. I think it's just something that everybody knows. There are, you have people you can go to, D&I advisors and whatnot. Should you feel you needed to talk to someone, ask for some advice if you thought something. But everybody from your line managers, we all do annual diversity and inclusion courses. We're all kept up to date, on everything and fair treatment of every employee. Everybody knows. It's never really, for me, been an issue.
And you have an opportunity to challenge. So through these courses that we do to make yourself aware of diversity and inclusivity, they tell you how to challenge, and they give you examples of maybe something that might have happened or would happen, and they ask you, well, how would you react to that? And then you have a group discussion, and that brings out different opinions, but it's a safe space, and you can challenge it there and then you walk out of that course better educated on how to deal with that situation.
Yeah, we're very open. We've learned a lot of it is to talk to each other. It's all about communication. You work together, your teammates, you're not friends. So if you have anything you really want to say, you should feel confident enough and safe enough to approach your colleague or whomever, your boss, your line manager, and just say, can I ask about this? Can I talk about this? Somebody said this. Do you feel this is... we're very open to talk to each other with our communication. Yeah.
Charlie, tell me about a time where maybe there's been a challenging moment being a woman in the Royal Air Force, if there has been.
I think for me personally, my most challenging moment was when I went to Norway to do Arctic survival training, like cold weather survival training, and there was only three women there at the time, and we had to do everything. It was really arduous. Do everything with the guys. That included go into the toilet outside. So some of we struggled with. The girls were like, I don't know if I can do this. You know, we're all really young, in the middle of nowhere, we're mixed amongst the Marines, the RAF, everybody. That I found really quite challenging initially, is to just be like, you have no choice, you know. But again, it was great, because even though I found it challenging, the guys was like, let's help the girls out and give them more space, because the guys don't really care about it. No, so let's give them more space. Let's make them a little tent or something, you know. So yeah, that was probably it for me.
I get the feeling that a lot of your male counterparts have always really kind of helped and supported rather than anything else. Is that what you would say?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, you become part of the team, and I've spoken to some of the younger generation coming through. It's the old person talking about being a female. So as I bring students onto RAF bases, some of the trade ambassadors, the young females, are there, and they don't see themselves as any different. We've come so far in that respect. They are literally just one part of the team. Yeah.
Let's talk about progression. Is it as easy, is it the same to progress within the Royal Air Force as a woman? Charlie?
Oh, absolutely, yeah, I believe so. We're reported, we have like SJAWS, which is like an appraisal system, a reporting system. So, you know, they've got your name. It's for me, I find it's the exact same. You've got the same opportunities as the guys have got. Everything, you know, your career's in your own hands, basically.
And talking from a broader sense, the whole of all industries, all jobs, do you feel as a woman that things are improving in terms of opportunity, the glass ceiling, all of that stuff? Emma?
It's changed dramatically since I joined the Air Force. I mean, I joined in 1984, so quite some time back. And there were there were limited senior officers, female officers, and senior female engineers, for example. And I'm actually the first female avionic engineering warrant officer ever in the Air Force. So that's it. It can be achieved. Full stop.
It's a huge achievement.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
Lots of hard work, I'm sure.
Yes.
So let's now talk about what has changed since then. You touched on it there, saying that when you joined in 1984, was it?
Yes, yeah.
Things have changed, and you've seen that firsthand. But can we have some examples of what's changed since you joined?
So when I joined, females didn't deploy with the helicopters. They eventually did with the Harriers. So from an engineering point of view, I went out on the first deployment with the helicopters, with the Pumas, into the field and did all exactly what you said about the toilet facilities, shall we say?
Digging holes.
And digging holes and making your own way. Yeah. Yes, so when I joined, it was at WRAF and RAF, so we were completely two different forces. And then in 2000, we became one force. So equal pay. We were on different pay when I first joined up. Not all females carried weapons. We all carry weapons now. The first female pilot came in. At one point on 20 Squadron Harriers, we had a pilot and junior engineering officer, female. The full crew was female. So that changed completely over the years. And now, I don't see any... we're all just one Royal Air Force, to be honest. Yeah.
Charlie, what about you? What have you seen change in your time?
For me, I joined in 2002, so after all the major changes had already taken place.
The golden era.
That's it, yeah. I missed all of that. But for me, I think it's just been the uptake of more women coming in, so going to stations and seeing more and more women on station for me, so yeah.
And for listeners at home, we'll talk about this from different perspectives. We'll go first, if there's a young woman listening to this and they're thinking about joining the forces, but they're a little bit unsure, they still kind of feel maybe it is male-dominated still, what would you say to them? What advice would you give? Charlie?
I'd say go for it. It's for everybody. It's for males, it's females, it's for everybody. You'll fit in, you'll enjoy it. It'll probably be one of the best decisions you ever make. Yeah.
I like that. Emma?
Just take it, just grasp it. It's an opportunity. For male and females across the board, when you're saying about this, do you have to be somebody special to join the Air Force? You need the determination, but you're joining this complete family, and you become special within that family. And wouldn't change anything. I would join up all over again.
So continuing on about that topic of concerns for people who are thinking about joining or thinking about next steps but aren't so sure, there might be people who are concerned about fitness and wondering if they're fit enough to join the Royal Air Force. You spoke about passing tests. How fit do you need to be? Charlie?
So there is a fitness test that you need to pass, and it's in the RAF we actually do a multi-stage fitness test. So it's the bleep test. We have to meet a bleep 20 metres on a 20-metre line apart. However, beforehand, you'll do a fitness test on the treadmill, and depending on what age you are, is depending on what time you have to do a 1.5 mile,
yes,
isn't it?
Yeah.
1.5 mile on there. So you do have to have a level of fitness to join the RAF. However, we do offer a training package for you to use before you join up. So if you're a bit concerned, we have a RAF Fit for Life booklet that you can get. I believe it's online, and it'll give you like a so many weeks workout schedule. So it'll help you get there to where you need to be, to the standard to get in.
That's quite handy, even if you just want to get fit, isn't it?
Oh,
Download that.
Ideal, yeah.
Anything else about the kind of sport element? You mentioned earlier on that you really enjoyed that when you joined. Any other sports that you tried out?
So I wasn't extremely fit when I joined, but I passed the basic fitness tests and no problem. And the RAF give you opportunities to increase your fitness and do completely different things. So, for example, I started enjoying running, and I do like a challenge, and that's where I take it from my mum, I think. So I decided that I was going to do a 5K, then a half marathon, then did 2 marathons, all supported by the RAF. And then I decided I enjoyed swimming. So on a squadron, in a crew room where we all sit and have your tea and coffee during the day, we decided that what challenge would we do for that year. So we decided we were going to swim the Channel as a team.
Wow.
So that was in 20 Squadron many moons ago. And yeah, we swam the Channel as 2 teams, 2 boats went across. So it is extreme. They are extreme examples, I have to say. But there are so many opportunities to do whatever sport. Every station has a OC, Officer Commanding Sport. And if you come up with a sport that you haven't played, that they don't have a team, then you start a team, and they support that. But equally, as not everybody's good at sport or wants to do that, so we now have esports and gaming. Yeah. So we have teams on most camps now, most RAF stations, that play COD, play all that side of it, and we have interstation challenges. And we've just, a whole group have gone out to America to play the Americans at esports.
Oh, brilliant.
And beat them.
Did they?
Yes.
Well, hey, that's what we like to hear.
Yeah.
It sounds a little bit like university, when you have all these different clubs you can be part of. And I think young people may feel they'll miss out on that element if they don't go to university. But actually what you're saying is everything's here for the taking. And if it's not, we could make it.
And equally, it's subsidised as well. So we will help you pay for certain aspects of your sport. We will give you funding if you have to do anything overseas, for example. And we also have the elite sports people. So, for example, we've got Amy, who now plays for England rugby team. And she's one of our elite sport women.
Tell me more about this Channel experience. How was that?
Amazing. So it was quite incredible. It was quite rough, actually. I think I had the middle stint, so you do about a couple of miles each. And I remember looking to the left and looking to the right and seeing P&O ferries and then Stena Line ferries. And we trained in Finland for the cold water while we were out there on detachment. And we trained actually down at Dover as well, getting used to the rough seas. And yeah, it was just a brilliant experience.
And what a sense of pride after you've done it.
Yeah, it was a little unreal in leading up to it, but we were doing it for a charity as well. So one of the guys who was on the team had 2 poorly twins, and it was looking after that person as well.
Were you the only woman?
Yes. Yeah.
Talk to me about that, being the only woman. Why?
Well, I think I was the daft person that came up with the idea for a start. And I just enjoy swimming, so I think, right, yeah, let's drive. And again, it wasn't particularly noticeable that I was the only woman. You just got on with it and trained together and in ridiculously cold temperatures, and off you went.
And Charlie, what about you? Have you swum the channel?
No, absolutely not. I'm built for land. I was always sporty at school, so I preferred sports over the academic side of things. So when I joined up, I didn't realise all the opportunities that I'd have in the RAF. So there was like athletics, got to do athletics, which I enjoyed at school, and there was netball. I even had to go powerlifting for a little while. So there was so much there that I didn't even realise was available. Indoor rock climbing, you got everything. So we used to have, I don't used to have it, they used to have a website that had a list of sports on there, and you could just ring somebody and go, I fancy trying this today, when's the next session? And they're like, oh, well, if you can get over to here, you can come do it with us. So it's been really positive, yeah.
That's brilliant, because I always say it's really important to try things so you know what you don't like just as much as what you do like.
Yeah,
and you don't know unless you say yes.
Yeah.
It's fantastic that all those opportunities are there. And last question for you. If there's a parent or carer listening and their youngster wants to join the forces and they are a girl and the parent is a bit concerned, what would you say to them? Emma?
If you have any concerns, get in touch with either someone in my role or someone in the careers office who can give you advice. We do a lot to do with families, and we also have a very big support mechanism within the military. For example, so if anybody is having any mental issues or mental health issues, etc., which often is seen as a negative thing in the press as far as I'm concerned, but actually in the Royal Air Force, we do things to build up your physical health and your mental health. So mental health can be positive. So I would tell the parents that we actually look after our people. We make sure they're strong physically and strong mentally, and that there is an issue, we have people who can step in and help. But we would actually encourage parents to talk to us so we can allay their fears if they have any.
You mentioned families there. I know I said that was the last question, but I've just thought of another one, so I'm going to throw it in. You mentioned families there. Obviously, as women, we have to think about if we want to have a family, what maternity looks like, what support there is on offer. Can we talk about that? Have you experienced that yourselves or know of other women? What is there available for you in the forces? Charlie?
Yeah, it's great. So I have a son, an 8-year-old. The RAF has been so supportive, down from your line managers, helping out the school run or, chicken pox. We have the wraparound care now, so the RAF support and fund the before and after school club, that should you need it for school-age children, in primary school that is. It's really supportive for parents, absolutely. I've got nothing but positive things to say when it comes to supporting me as a parent in the RAF.
And I was speaking to someone off air yesterday about the kind of the houses and the furniture and the supplies you can get. How helpful is that for people, especially if they've got a young family? Emma? So
we have married quarters on every base, and as you move in, you have a basic package, basic furniture. It is basic furniture, but they set you up straight away from the start. And they have families officers who also are in charge and who look after individual families. And as Charlie was saying, that if you have any issues, for example, if you deploy, they can make adjustments and help you out with that as well.
It's like you mentioned, the big family that you're joining, there's always someone to help.
Yeah.
Well, before we say goodbye, is there any final words that you'd like to say to our listeners about this subject today?
Yes. I'd like to say for anybody who's considering joining the RAF, to come down to your local AFCO career or your careers office. You can book an appointment online, and we offer slots where you can come down and talk about any concerns you have at all, get some information. You want some informed knowledge on, the training, what your child will go through, or you as an individual, what you'll go through on training, and we can answer all them questions and hopefully reassure you whether or not this could be a right step for you to take or not.
Anything from you, Emma?
Well, I'm just looking behind Charlie. We're saying no ordinary job on your backdrop, and that's exactly what it is. It's just an opportunity to change your life. It's a fantastic job. Yeah.
Well, Charlie and Emma, thank you very much for sharing all of your advice and your stories today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Find Your Force. If you liked what you heard, then subscribe for future episodes. And don't forget to share. It really does make a difference. We want as many people to realise their career potential by finding their force.